oh, heaven, don't want to go there. That was another thing. Oh my gosh, as a kid, I did not want to go to heaven. I was like, this sounds awful. What are you
Because
fucking
you sit around
doing?
playing cheeses all day. Everyone felt that. No one fucking said it. I bet you said it. You seem like the kind of person.
Oh, I did. I was like, I don't think I want to go. You know, I told my mom, I was like, I don't think I want to go.
We're just going to sing these 4-chord praise and worship songs forever.
Forever.
I want to die. Just let me die. Right. Can I just turn off the light switch, please?
That was my plan. I was like, I'm going to get to heaven and I'm just going to be like, yo, look, you've got some folks here doing your choir shit. Like, can I just bounce? Like, just cancel me.
Yeah. You're like, do they have suicide in heaven? No?
I know, like, I want to stop existing. This is exhausting. I did this my whole damn life.
You're telling me that I can't call it quits at all.
Ever. Never. Dude.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Growing Up Christian. I'm Sam.
I'm Casey.
And Casey, how's your COVID recovery going?
It's going pretty good. It was a weird week. Like, I never got real sick or anything.
Yeah.
I just have like some crap in my throat and whatnot, but I slept a lot for me. Like, I'm kind of like a 5 to 6 hour a night person.
That's pretty low, dude. You operate just fine on 5 to 6 hours. I guess I'm actually generally in that. I feel like I'm in that category, but I'm always tired. Like it's not good for me. Do you feel fine generally with 5 to 6 hours?
Yeah, I go hard until like 10 o'clock at night, and then if I'm sitting down, I'm gonna fall asleep in the chair.
Yeah. Do you have to set an alarm or do you just get up?
It kind of depends. I usually set an alarm, but a lot of times I wake up before my alarm, like 5:30 or something.
Oh my God, I don't even know that's possible. If I don't set an alarm, I'll sleep till like 8:30, 9 o'clock still.
Well, that's what I did this week. I kept, like, I would get up and like go to the bathroom or something and then turn my alarm off, and then boom, like I slept like 8 hours a couple of nights. Like April beat me out of bed a couple of times,
the
which
doctor
never
recommended
happens.
8 hours. Oh, that's crazy.
It feels crazy.
But that's good. I mean, at least you didn't get real sick. I mean, I feel like when you get it, it's there's like you don't know. Like I feel like when you probably first are like you have COVID, you're like, oh shit, like how's this gonna go? And it didn't go too bad for you, so that's good.
No, it was like mostly just mentally weird.
Yeah.
Like, we live, as I've said before, like we live out in the middle of nowhere. So there's nobody out here. You can go outside, do whatever you want, never see another person, and so I had like plans during the week. I'm like, man, I got all this time. Hunting season started. I can start doing all these projects and stuff. But like about midway through the week, like I was kind of starting to lose it a little bit. And like everything seemed like it wasn't working out. Like, I'm like, oh, well, let's go fishing tomorrow. And then the weather's garbage. Or let's go do this. And then something fell through. And like, it was Thursday night. I had maybe a little bit of a like freak out. Just like, everything's bad.
Yeah, I feel like it's like that cabin fever vibe after a minute where you're just like feel like you're going crazy and stuff. There's nothing to do, especially when you can't go outside. I mean, you always have something going on outdoors.
Yeah. So I got a lot of stuff done, but definitely ready to get back into the swing of things. Like I got plans this week. I can't be sitting at home again. Yeah.
When's your like quarantine over?
So I guess it's like 10 days from your first symptoms. So I think technically like Tuesday.
Okay.
I'm going to go back. So it's in April, like didn't test positive, but she's had like kind of just a cough or whatever.
Okay.
But she never leaves the house anyways. So she's fine.
She's been quarantining for the past 6 months.
Exactly.
Dude, so my morning got ultra derailed. As we almost didn't get on this recording. I we're recording this is Sunday morning, the 7th, for the episode that was coming out on the 9th, so everyone has a little bit of a frame of reference. And my foster son does cheer, and he had a competition today, and was like, asked if we would be able to go last night. I was like, oh, I didn't realize this was like a spectators competition. I thought it was just like something for the schools to do, whatever. That's not, the whole spectator sport thing's a little weird right now. And then it is like these competitions are hours and hours because different people do different things. And I just thought it was like for them. He had made no mention about whether or not we could go beforehand. So last night he asked, we're like, man, we just have a lot to do tomorrow. And sorry, like we can't. And it's like, that's fine. This morning he leaves. He had an interview at, I don't know if this reference is going to fall flat on people, but Cumbies. It's like a gas station. It's like a shittier Sheetz,
Okay.
You don't get food. They have food you can get, but it's not made to order. It just kind of sits on one of those like spinny, sweaty wheels that keeps it warm for a while. But anyway, he's been trying to get a job there. It's right down the street. Great, easy. He had an interview there at 6:50, and then he goes to the school to get on the bus and go to his cheer competition, whatever. He calls me and says, I'm on the bus on my way to the school for the competition, and I forgot all my stuff in the car. Can you go to the school and get it and then bring it to me? I was like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Oh my God. My wife and I were livid. We're just so fucking mad about it. So now she's like, kids are upstairs watching TV. She's on her way to do that. And I can't guarantee that no one's going to come knocking on the door to ask me for a snack or something like that. But I was like, this is riding off of last week. My kids have had hand, foot, and mouth disease all week.
My nephew has had that recently.
It went around, dude, especially our friends group, because I don't think I said this on our last recording because I don't remember when we did it, but we had a Halloween party, and then that serves us right. That's what we get for practicing Halloween, right? And one of the kids ended up having it the next day is when like all the symptoms popped up, and then almost all the kids at the Halloween party got it. So, Jesus Christ gave us our due. He's punishing us for the sin of practicing Halloween, and I get it. We repented, and now it's, put some blood on our doorway, and they're doing better now. So that's good. But it was, we're going to have to edit this out because I don't know if this is an emergency. I'm just going to mute my mic and we can edit that. I'm getting a phone call. That was my foster son calling me to tell me he has no service.
Okay.
Calling me on somebody else's phone. But I'm like, okay, I'm not bringing it to you. I'm not on my way there. So calling the wrong person. Anyway.
So you got...
kids had head, foot, and mouth. Jill stayed home with them all week. For Tuesday, it was like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. And then
what are the symptoms of that? Like, what does it do?
It didn't get my daughter too bad, but my son got rocked by it. And it basically puts almost like blister-like sores all around your mouth, your hands, and your feet. He got under his armpits. It gets in your throat too. Like, so he couldn't swallow. Yeah. I mean, for like 2 days, he just cried. It was absolutely horrible. As a parent, there's nothing you can do for it. It's like a virus, I guess. There's no medication. There's like a couple of like things you can do to like lessen the pain. Like one of the suggestions is like mixing. It's like Benadryl, and I don't even remember what the other stuff is called. It's an antacid. It's like a
Pepto-Bismol?
Maalox.
Oh, Maalox.
Yeah. So it's like you can mix like 50-50 that and Benadryl and swish it around, and that supposedly helps. Like, but the kids aren't really doing that. We got it, and kids aren't good at doing that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And then so otherwise you just wait. Like, so he's got it around his nose, his mouth, his feet didn't do bad. He got a couple of like blisters on his thumbs, but but it's just his mouth. And you can see him now. It's like just these like scabs all around his mouth, and it's like dried out, so he can't like open it without his mouth cracking now. But
poor little guy.
it was
Jeez.
awful. It was true. Like, so they slept in our bed for like 3 nights, and we would just
spitting
like,
in your mouth.
yeah, and we would like just to get him to settle down and like distract him. We would just turn on the TV and watch something with them till they fell asleep in our bed. It was terrible, man. So
yeah, I don't know how bad my nephew got it, but my sister was saying that he's over it now, and they had like a week of relief where he was just like happy to feel better, you know?
Yeah. So it was while we were in the middle of that whole thing, the first day Jill's homesick with the kids, he calls her and goes, "I forgot my shoes for gym. Can you bring them to me?" And she's like, "No, the kids are sleeping and they're sick. I'm not waking them because I'm going to get a 0 in gym." She's like, "You should have thought about that before you forgot your shoes for school. Like this is a regular thing. Like you take them all year. Like how are you forgetting these things?" And then that same day he was like, he forgot a project. So he had to have Jill take a picture of it and send it to him. So now with leaving his cheer stuff at the school, we're just like, all right, what are we going to do?
Man.
I'm about to like throw you through a window. It's
I feel like that's like one of those things that as a kid, you just don't understand why people are upset over it.
Oh yeah.
You're like, well, I forgot. I mean, what am I supposed to do if I forget? It's like, well, you can't forget because there's nobody to call later on. You know, you have to remember all this stuff. Make a list, do whatever you got to do. Get organized, you know?
All the shit we used to do as kids that were like, it's so hard to understand. Like when your parents get mad at you, especially when you're a teenager and you feel independent and smart and capable, and they're like mad at you for being irresponsible. Like, because you're irresponsible, you don't understand what the problem is about the irresponsibility. It just doesn't compute. So they can try to explain it to you, but it's like, I mean, it's just not a big deal. And that's what's really annoying is hearing, I don't get the big deal. It's like, I know you don't get the big deal.
Like, just drop everything and run out here.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, like, sports is probably the biggest motivating factor for me not having kids. Like, if I had to go sit through sporting events, I would die. I would die.
I'm not a sports guy, as you know, but it is fun to watch your kids do that stuff. I do like. Well, I guess some parents don't think so. Obviously, we all grew up with kids whose dads never showed up for their events. Shout out to all the kids who are still dealing with that. But I love it. I mean, when the kids were in soccer, it's fun. I mean, Byron plays basketball. He'll be playing that in the. I guess that's the next season. I don't know when the sports seasons are still, so I outing myself as a total idiot here, but I'm excited about that. Like, it's fun to watch him play and go to his games. So
basketball's not bad. Like, I could watch basketball.
It's an hour. Like, football last year was a little bit worse because it's like, okay, this is like a couple hours long. It's fucking cold on these steel fucking bleachers. It's not fun.
I hate football. Like, that's my least favorite one to watch. I'll go watch a baseball game because at least it's warm. Like, I don't want to do any of it, but I can go to a basketball game. Like, I've been to some of the Wichita State games here, and it's fun, you know, but football takes so long. I remember, like, my sister for a while, she kind of went between schools, you know, whereas I stayed in the little Christian one.
Yeah.
And for a while, she was doing, like, sports. She did cheer with like a local team. And so we had to go to all these Pee-wee football games, and it was awful. Like, it's so boring. It takes forever. There's somebody hurt like every other play. And then like you're really just there to see her. And it basically boils down to like every 15 minutes they get to run out on the field and kind of like do a little jig for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I was so happy when it was over. I remember.
I could definitely see you not wanting to go to your sister's cheer game, like the football games. That would not. I wouldn't have. I didn't like watching any of my siblings play. Well, I guess only one of them played stuff. I went to like a baseball game once, and I'm like, what am I doing here? Trying to be a supportive older brother. Probably went once or twice, but I can see that I could see you watching baseball because it's like the only one you can kind of know what's going on without having to really pay attention.
Yeah, baseball is easy to track.
But I mean, baseball games. I don't like watching baseball really. I don't watch it on TV, but going to baseball games is fun when you just drink and eat and sit, and it's nice, and it's just like a fun vibe they do sometimes.
Yeah, like I don't think you'll ever catch me watching any sports on TV.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll watch. Well, I went 2 years ago. I went through a phase where I tried to watch football, and I was pretty successful at it. I watched most of the games, and then I haven't. I just don't. I don't. I think I like the idea of getting into it more than I like getting it. That's how I am with a lot of things. Like, oh, I need a hobby because I don't have one, and people like this. It's a thing to do with other people, right? Everyone else is getting together to watch it, and it didn't last. It's not for me. I can't like actually get focused on it. I can't actually like learn the names of characters of players.
of characters.
Playing video games too much. Learn numbers and who's doing what. I don't know, dude. It's too much for me. I'm not going to invest into it. Like someone tried roping me into a fantasy football league one year just because they needed an extra player. So I auto drafted and then never checked it, and they weren't happy with me. But I thought I'd get into it. I originally said yes because I'm like, this will make me pay attention. Like maybe this is my way to get into caring.
It's interactive.
And it didn't work. I didn't do anything with it at all. So like people would get injured and they'd come out with my team, but I wouldn't bench them and shit like that. So I just wouldn't play. It was like terrible.
Yeah. I feel like in sales, that's like one of those things that's always an easy fallback. Like if you're into sports,
sure.
you can talk to whoever about sports.
Yeah.
It gets kind of annoying because like some people just, oh man, I had some people that like that was their entire life was watching sports, like especially college football, like in Michigan. Like they almost went through like seasonal depression when the college football season ended, and you're like, come on, man.
People
like,
get into college football. I mean, as much as the NFL or more. It's interesting to me.
Yeah. I like a lot of stupid things, so I can imagine people say the same thing about stuff that I like, but it just never struck me.
Yep. Yeah. Dude, one of the things I think we got to talk about before we go ahead and introduce our guest in a little bit here is what the fuck is going on at Liberty University, right? I don't know if
Oh boy, what's the most recent?
I mean, it started with that guy Todd Lamb, I think is his name. I should have been a little bit more prepared, but basically, this dude was he's calling himself like the whistleblower.
And this guy was not.
I don't really think so.
We know someone that has some inside information on the situation, and this guy is not a friend of this movement at all.
Yeah.
He's basically trying to retcon his involvement in covering up all sorts of things over the last like however many years. And what was it, the most recent article that came out about him, he kind of came out and said that like they were making all these steps and he's really trying to push forward like a better agenda that's going to keep students safe. We're going to put call boxes and security cameras in. And
Prevo. You're talking Prevo. Yes. This is Jerry Prevo. He's like he's like the president.
This is Scott Lamb is the guy I'm talking about.
Wait. Scott left the university. He filed a lawsuit against them. A wrongful termination suit, I think.
Okay.
And that's because he was trying to. So, honestly, someone that people should follow for this is Chelsea Andrews on Twitter. I think she's on Instagram too. She's one of the Jane Does. So when we had Zach Levitt from Gangster Capitalism, we talked about their Title IX violations, and kind of the gist of the story that's going on right now is that movement was gaining traction, and journalists had kind of picked up the story. Chelsea Andrews and a bunch of the other Jane Does who are pretty active on Twitter. A lot of them are, had this big interview with a certain publication, and they kind of took out some of the Jane Doe interviews and replaced it with their conversation with Scott Lamb. And Scott's over there saying, hey, they did know about all this. Like, they keep pretending like they didn't, but there was a lot of shit going on. He's kind of been involved at a higher level in the university.
He's a part of it, though. He was a part of the poisonous culture.
Yeah, I don't know that that's his way around it. It feels like if you're whistleblowing now and you've been in a position of power since 2018, and he's even putting out conversations that he had with Jerry, like where Jerry's pretending like he didn't know about it. And he's like, come on, Jerry, you knew about it. And like, you get the impression from these conversations that he's putting out that he was trying to make the university deal with it. And nobody would. 3 years is a long time to not say or do anything. Maybe he thought it was a good time to jump in on it because of the traction that the Gangster Capitalism series had and the Jane Doe who filed the lawsuit. So I don't know, but either way, things have been coming to a head there. You know, they had a protest outside the university. Unfortunately, that protest got turned into what they just a call for independent investigation. So the universe into these allegations, which is that's not really what people were asking for. That's what some people were asking for, but that really detracts from a little bit of what's going on because they agree. A lot of the members have agreed to it. They're waiting for I don't know. I think another board member or two has to agree to an independent investigation. But I mean, those don't always play out the way you want them to. What? So they do an independent investigation and, oh, hey, look, you guys are actually in the clear. Now we can all wipe our hands clean from it. Like that.
Oh yeah. When has it ever helped in the political realm?
Right.
That's like, we're trying. We made a committee.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. But I think what's difficult about this right now is that Scott Lamb is the one getting all of the press. Like, people are really paying attention to this Scott Lamb guy because he's the defector. But it's so frustrating for the women who are involved in this lawsuit because they're the ones who have been saying this shit the entire time. And people didn't really want to deal with that. It took a while for it to gain any momentum. I mean, I forget how many Jane Does there are on this, but it's
there's a bunch.
It's in the teens, right? And you're you have all these women saying these things about certain people on campus, and they're all of a sudden Scott Lamb comes out and blows their shit up, and it's getting some press, and the Jane Does are kind of forced out of the narrative. And he's the center of attention, which for me, it just feels icky. It feels I feel like he must have seen some writing on the wall and knew this shit was going to collapse, and if he was going to be involved in it in some way, so he needed to just scrounge up everything where he. I mean, it does sound like he has more of a moral compass than the other people there, but it sounds like now that it's oh, I just want to change evangelicalism from within. You have those people who stick it out for a while and they participate in something bad, and or maybe they were at a church that had to cover that didn't deal appropriately. Even Josh Harris, I know his name's not everybody's favorite right now, but I mean, he talked about that issue in his church, right? There was an issue in the church that he was a part of where they didn't just go to the authorities. They tried to deal with something internally when they shouldn't have. And it's people participate in shit like that. And then, but that doesn't, it feels to me like the writing on the wall for Scott Lamb in Liberty University, and it looking like it's going so poorly for them. It was I'm going to get ahead of this. It's the one to tattle first is the one who doesn't get in trouble.
I think that's what's going on. And it sounds to me from the person that I talked to, it sounded to me like Scott did a lot of thumb twiddling and then aggressive track covering to try to make himself look like he did more than he actually did about it.
Yeah.
And person that I took to went so far as to say that he's a liar and has like used company or department resources and stuff to try to cover his tracks on some of these things.
Yeah.
So
And if
I
he's
don't know.
recording
I
phone
mean,
calls, like it makes me feel if he started recording phone calls recently, it's like, did he know he was going to do that? Was he looking for his way out? So he starts recording phone calls with people and so he can, like, it's easy to be bold when you're recording a phone call and then for the sake of using it against somebody later on. I don't know. Look, it's all speculation. I'm not really trying to hurdle any accusations. I just have a massive distrust of anyone who's a higher up at Liberty to act like to pretend like they didn't know enough, and when they found out that they tried and then it didn't work and now they're doing the noble and honorable thing of calling everybody else out. I don't trust it. I just don't buy it. I think the institution's too corrupt for it to be that clean for anybody.
yeah, they need to just like tug this old regime out, root and stem, and start. I mean, that is the only way you're gonna salvage any aspect of the college that's still worth having. You know, I mean, we've talked about Liberty a lot. You know, obviously because of our association with it. Neither of us hate Liberty. We had a good time there. It was a really like important, pivotal part of our lives in a lot of different ways. You know, but there has just been this toxic culture there that has a lot of different effects. I mean, the sexual assault stuff is the worst of it, but there's so many aspects of Liberty that have been corrupted over the years because of this crony management and, you know, a guy treating himself as a deity on campus and basically doing whatever he wants with the school's resources. Like, it's got to come out.
Yeah.
And they need to get rid of all these people, all of the sycophants who sat and watched this happen for years and didn't make a peep. They got to go. You need new leadership in there, and you need somebody to you need clarity and make sure that people from the outside can see exactly what's being done to make women more safe on campus, to change some of the cultural things with the LUPD and stuff that have happened there over the years, like transparency. That was the word I was thinking.
Yeah. No, I mean, and then you have Jerry Prevost, who gets to be he's the acting president, essentially. I don't know if he's officially the president, the acting president, I forget, but he's all like acting like this is news to him because he hasn't been here that long. But it's like he was on the board, the board of trustees. Like what, he was affiliated with the university for so long. Like he's been an active participant. He he's had push, pull, sway. He knows what's going on there, and he's directly. I mean, he's one of those people whose opinions influence the direction of that university, because we know it's not just Jerry. We know it's not just one or two people at the top. They have a board of people that they answer to, and those people are the ones that that make the rules. Even like when it comes to the dress codes and Liberty Way and stuff like that. I remember when our time on campus, people talking about like, yeah, nobody at the top, like Jerry Jr., like a lot of these people, they don't care about whether or not you watch rated R movies. Like they don't care if you wear a collar shirt. Like some of the things that you had to do, people stopped caring about, but you have all the old guard who have their say too. And they're like just the old money, like the old donators, the people who pay like astronomical amounts of money to the school, the people who have like influence with the family, and just like, they get to make rules too. And you gotta keep them happy to keep the money coming in.
Like, I know I kissed my girlfriend in a dimly lit area, but isn't your boss like fondling a waitress somewhere?
Yeah. No kidding, dude. And now Jerry's like, yeah, we're gonna put a bunch of blue light the blue light phone boxes around, put some more lights up, put some video cameras up. Like, dude, what school doesn't have cameras mostly everywhere? I feel like that's normal, right?
I remember in the Gangster Capitalism when he argued with one of the victims about how cameras wouldn't be effective in the tunnel where one of her roommate had been raped.
I mean, I know I've had to deal with some shit at the high school with stuff that's happened since Byron's been living with us, and they could literally pull up cameras to look at any single part of that school. I mean, except for obviously bathrooms, but like you're looking at like, oh, where in the hallway was it? Did you have this conversation where this kid said this thing to you? They can look it up. Oh, we know who that, like, dude, school. I'm just like, I'm not convinced that most universities don't already have the ability to see what's going on around their campus. Like, and Liberty seems way behind the curve on that.
And I think that's what's like so gross about the whole thing is that, it's very much this like typical conservative, like protect my daughter over everything. When a boy comes to pick her up for prom, I'm going to be cleaning the shotgun on the porch. It's like that culture. And then meanwhile, you have them just like resisting protective measures to an illogical consent point. It just doesn't make any sense. And I don't know, man. They're just going to have to root these people out because I don't know, it's poor leadership, and it deliberately made people less safe on campus.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll have to keep tracking the story. I really am curious to see how it plays out. It's hard to imagine people with all this bad press, people still being like, I want to send my kid there. I'm sure they do. I'm sure they think this is just what happens to Christians who are faithful to God. They get persecuted. I know you can always play that card when it's convenient. So I'm sure they will. And they are, of course, at the university. Prevo's all like, well, this is adversity that's going to make us stronger. It's like,
shut up.
No. Yeah, I know it's super. You're facing a lot of adversity when people are asking you to stop allowing them to get raped on campus. So much adversity. Like,
my severance package is in jeopardy. This is serious.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God. All right. I don't know. There's probably a lot more we could say about it, but we'll see what comes next. I want to look at see if there's any more fallout or information after their little protest that happened and kind of where that goes. It wasn't huge, but maybe we'll have some information on that next week to touch on, but we should probably keep following this. And I mean, we have vested interest in it. We've certainly spared no words on Liberty in our time there, obviously.
And we like we said, we want the school to pull through this. We want them to get new leadership, to change these practices, to be a safe place for students, and then they can go about doing the things that we loved about Liberty, But there's no way that that's going to happen if we keep sidestepping these problems and allowing these dopey sycophants to just push the responsibility off of their lap.
Yeah, I'm a little okay with the whole thing burning to the ground too. That's not. I'm not super concerned. If it could turn into a productive university where you get a good education, but there's a lot that has to be fixed.
That was what I was saying. Yes.
Yeah. It's like it has to basically turn into a completely different university, right? It's like you have to be a new school basically in order for you to still be able to, for us to want you to exist. I don't know what that looks like, but I don't know, man. I don't know. All right. Our guest is Tori Williams Douglas. She is the host of a podcast called White Homework and a podcast called Go Home Bible, You're Drunk. And she's great. Follow her on Twitter. She's a fun person. She's very active on Twitter, posts a lot, very, very funny.
She's a live wire.
Yeah, she's a neat person. Her podcasts are great. I'm more familiar with Go Home Bible, You're Drunk because the premise is just funny to me. Something that's up my alley, where they just read Bible verses as a ex-Christian, maybe post-Christian. I forget if her co-host is an ex-Christian as well, but they just kind of talk about them without trying to defend them. Just let them be what they are. And it makes me think back to like the Bible study days that I had at Liberty, where you would like read verses that were awkward and tough and not know what to do with it and dance around it and try to make it seem reasonable. And they don't do that. They'll just read a passage and then be like, what the fuck was that all about? And it's pretty funny. So it's definitely worth checking out, especially Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I get nothing else to say. She was great. I hope you guys all enjoy our conversation with Tori Williams Douglas.
Sam, temperature's dropping. Leaves are changing. I think we're well into the fall season.
Yeah, well into it. And the fall season where I live in New England is a premier destination point. It's a lot of people's favorite time of the year here. And it also happens to be my favorite time of the year. And what's better on a crisp fall morning than a great cup of coffee? If you're a coffee enthusiast, you're going to absolutely love Captain Cecil's Coffee Roasters. Captain Cecil's is a Massachusetts-based artisan roastery born out of a love for the sea and a passion for great coffee.
They offer a rotating menu of carefully crafted single-source roasts and blends tailored to the season. From the light, fruitful notes of Empty Gold to the nutty banana bread warmth of Nobska, there's bound to be a cup of Captain Cecil's that's perfect for you.
Empty Gold is honestly an incredible coffee. That and another one of my favorites is 19 Miles at Sea. 19 Miles at Sea is a little on like the kind of caramel nuttier side, and then Empty Gold is a bit on like the fruitier side. And I personally just don't like dark roast. I like a light to medium roast coffee, and those two are fantastic. The huge hits at my house. And we would have friends over and I'd, brew a pot of coffee and everyone raved about it. It's a big hit. I mean, they're just absolutely delicious.
Nobska's definitely been the hit at my house. We absolutely love it. On top of great coffee, Captain Cecil's is committed to caring for the beautiful northeastern shore that they love so much. 10% of all sales go to organizations like the American Lighthouse Foundation, who ensure the preservation of the historic New England coastline.
So if you're ready to welcome that autumn breeze with a warm cup of Captain Cecil's, visit CaptainCecilsCoffee.com. Enter the promo code GrowingUpChristian at checkout to receive 10% off your first order and free shipping on orders over $50. That's CaptainCecils.com, promo code GrowingUpChristian. Hey everybody, we're back with our guest, Admiral of the Ocean Sea, Tori Williams Douglas.
Hi, oh my gosh, I love that. And I'm so embarrassed because that's literally like that was Christopher Columbus's title. Yeah. when he was going to find India. He's like, just you want to find India, just go west, brother. So yeah, no, I'm like, this is so incredibly embarrassing. And so I love it, right? Anytime that I go viral, I have a horrific Twitter name. Every single time. It's like sexual microwave oven.
There you go.
One, which is like a James Dobson quote, I think.
Oh, really? That's real, particularly gross, even for Dobson. And
that's our boy.
Well, yeah, because it's the men are like microwaves, women are like crock pots. His whole bullshit about sexuality, and how
women are like crock pots.
there are only two gears. There's two genders. And there's two gears, and you can't change it. That's how God made it.
Yeah, we've done a lot of talking about Dobson around here. We were both big fans. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah,
he's responsible for my sex education.
Mm-hmm. Same. Oh my God.
Did you do Preparing for Adolescence?
I did. Yeah.
There we go.
We keep that book on hand. This is probably the 5th time it's come up, but we do keep it handy. You never know when you need to.
I know. Seriously,
he's got there's a lot of little nuggets in there for your everyday life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
one of my friends is like, they're working on their thesis, and a shit ton of what they're using is like Dobson's original work, like stuff he was doing in the 70s before he was like the Christian parent guru or something. That's now that I'm thinking about this, I don't know how he described what he did.
Yeah, I'm super interested in learning about that when that comes out.
I don't know.
I haven't read many theses, but I would definitely take a look at that one because it's like, you're a real doctor somehow.
Unfortunately,
yeah. So what? I don't know.
That's an honorary doctorate.
It's it's a mediocre white man doctorate. So Because, like, seriously, one of the people that he was working with, from what I understand from my friend's research, was like an avowed white supremacist. Like,
oh, come on.
Out,
I mean,
like,
I'm acting shocked. I'm sorry.
I know, right? And there's no reason to be
no
shocked.
way.
Right? I know. And so it's really, really interesting to kind of look back on my childhood, because he was on every day in our house, and go like, oh, okay, so you like freaking out about prayer being taken out of school.
Yeah.
The gay agenda, because all queer people are also sexual predators, and there are no sexual predators in our church. Isn't this incredible?
Yeah, and you're only queer because you're a victim of a sexual predator as well. That was a huge one.
Fucking God, yeah. Right?
Oh, I definitely got that message. Oh.
That was the way they happened at according to my church, for sure.
Jesus Christ! That's not how it works. I can attest to the fact that is not how it works.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I'll take your word for it, and the word of many other people who also have
exactly
that are like, you're not smart, dude. I don't know what your deal is, but you stopped learning after you got your PhD, and you just went south.
I wonder,
he became like an ideologue, right?
Yeah, really.
That community is very good at like they're very prone to just turning over the reins to a centralized figure. You know, like, well, this guy's saying things that I like. Like, yeah. I'll give him full responsibility for teaching my children about important things. Like, here's what Dobson says, and I can sign off on that. I didn't read it.
Yeah,
but
makes it a lot easier.
Sure, it's great.
It's wonderful.
So you had Dobson on as a kid. That was kind of your education there. So let's talk about. I want to hear about your story, because I've been following you on Twitter for a bit. I've seen you with multiple Twitter handles. I like the work you're doing, your podcast. It's fun. So I was very excited to be able to talk to you about who you are. And why don't we start with that? Well, because as the podcast is called, Growing Up Christian, sounds like you grew up Christian and it didn't go great. So I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. Do you have people on who grew up Christian and it went really, really well? Like it went beautifully.
A couple. We've had. We actually want to dabble a little bit more in Christian TikTokers and things like that. Like people who are serious and like, what's
guys who
deal?
Scream at girls in bikinis on the beach and things like that. You know, that's our target. Guest
he didn't respond to all of our requests, but that's I wouldn't really expect him
what about the dad that like made that video talking about his two like children's sexuality and how they had to be fully clothed, because otherwise, if somebody like slips and rapes you, that's your fault because you wear a swimsuit.
It's weird. People like that, they really like to, they love to say their piece on the internet, but you never really hear them having an honest discussion with someone who is trying to critique them. Like our favorite go-to is John Cooper. You know John Cooper
from Skillet?
Yeah. We fucking hate him so much here.
Oh my God.
But he's
I respect him as an artist, though.
He's like fashy now, isn't he? Did he go like full fascist?
Yeah.
So disappointing.
He's fun. And also he went full black hair dye on his beard.
Whoa. Jesus,
he looks like Creed from The Office when he put the toner in his hair.
This is awful. I'm gonna have nightmares.
He'll go off all day long and make a lot of awkward Instagram videos
but he won't respond to
he'll never go on. Like, I mean, I know people who have tried to get him on their podcast to be like, let's talk about this, because you're criticizing ex-evangelicals or liberal Christians quite a bit, but they're never welcome to the table to have the conversation with you. So you don't get to just set him up and knock him down every single time. But those people generally, like one of his pals, like Alyssa Childers, she also, they kind of run in the same circle. She won't really respond to those types of requests, and not just from us. We're not really
calls people out too. So it's like, honey, if you're gonna dish it out, you got to be able to take it.
I know.
So,
and people with bigger platforms, like we're not.
No, I understand what you're saying. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
that's wild.
Anyway, we went that road. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing. What kind of what's the world in which the Christian world in which you were brought into?
Yeah. Well, it was extremely, extremely Christian. I'm definitely one of those people who joked about being born on the pew. And uh, so my parents were evangelicals, before they got married. So they've been on this journey together now for well over 40 years. And so yeah, I came along, and my mom, just as an example of where we were like ideologically, my mom wrote in my baby book that my favorite toy was this little squeaky toy that was a white elephant, and she hoped that meant that I would be a Republican when I grew up.
Okay, that's
my mother is white, by the way. I am not. So just to clarify,
for context,
that is what is happening here.
Yeah, it's a little on the nose, a little on the trunk.
I love elephants, though. I really do. They're precious.
They're fun. I rode one once as a child at a fair. That's my only elephant story. I'm done now.
Sad. Mm.
I know, really. Yeah, that's probably not something to just throw out there anymore. People don't really love it. It'd be like, it's almost like shooting Harambe. It's just one.
Oh my god! Shut up.
No. Okay. Zoo jokes. Not great. Okay.
I hate elementary, Sam. I'll just put it out there.
Oh my god. No. Oh gosh. Oh, poor baby elephants. No, it's fine. Just tell people, like, yeah. Baby elephants get treated like evangelical Black children of white mothers get treated, which means they get the shit beat out of them for everything.
Boy. All the time. Was that a staple at your house?
Oh yeah.
Big on the spanking.
That song was on repeat. Yeah.
What song?
Getting Hit.
Oh, not a real song. Unless they played music to it, in which that's very, very traumatic.
Euphemism for close fist beating.
Yes. Yeah, sure. I mean, it makes sense, right? Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that was a disaster. Thanks, James Dobson. I hope you rot in hell. Non-existent hell, rather.
I know. It's a bummer. Yeah. It sucks to realize that when you don't believe in hell anymore, it sucks so bad to realize that there's going to be so many terrible people who aren't hanging out there.
Oh, man.
Just warm food.
If all the terrible people are going to heaven, like, send me to hell. That sounds great. I'm fine with this, honestly, if you think about the company.
Yeah.
Boo.
What part of the country were you in?
So I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon. It's on
pretty
fire.
Liberal there.
It's on fire, as you can clearly see behind me. My home is on fire. And yeah, it is very liberal. And I noticed as a very little kid that, like, the people that I saw around town who were in crisis were disproportionately Black people. And that bugged me, like, as a really little kid. I've always been very kind of oriented towards justice, and so I don't know exactly why this was a thing that I picked up on, but I did, and I didn't like how I was parented, and I told my parents this regularly. They were not thrilled. And somehow threatened. Like, I don't understand how you can be threatened by a 9-year-old saying that you're parenting poorly, unless you feel a thing.
Fascinating.
Right? Like, if you don't... Just saying.
That's super insightful, because at 9 years old, I was convinced that, most kids are still convinced that their parents are right about everything. And that's the right way to do things. So for you to have come to that conclusion, either your parenting was awful, truly terrible, or...
So you little call it A, little call it B.
Or you're very insightful.
So yeah, no, my mother did not like the fact that I did not appreciate or approve of her parenting, and I'm sure she took some of that out on me too.
Yeah, seriously.
What's funny is I know. I'm like, again, how are you threatened by a child? Like, kids say shit. Just move on with your life. But
yeah.
But then when I got older, when I was like in my early 20s, my mom told me that she so resented both my parents are still in, right? They're like Trump voting Republican bullshit, anti-vax mongers. But yeah, when I was in my early 20s, my mom, for some reason, pulled me aside and she was like, I really hated the fact that you were always telling me that I was a bad parent. I couldn't wait for you to have a kid so that I could tell you how you were parenting wrong.
Cool.
Oh.
It's not supposed to go that way. You're supposed to say it's that way. You know how it feels when your kid tells you that. It's a little weird when the parent wants to just rub your nose in it. And
I hope you have a kid and I hope it sucks.
Like, mom, well, what's so interesting is like when I had kids, I was like, wow, my parents made this really difficult for no goddamn reason on themselves. Made it difficult on themselves. Like, it is more work to be a shitty James Dobson, Michael Pearl following parent than to just be nice to your fucking kids and treat them as humans. And, you know, when you do the former, your kids usually don't really care for their childhood that much, turns out. I don't know.
It's funny. I have two kids.
Okay.
And and feel the same way. I'm like, okay, like, because I mean, my wife and I, we were late. We were late on the ex-evangelical move. Like, we were like still bought in pretty hard into like our mid-20s. And
I didn't leave until I was 30. It's fine.
Okay, great. So a lot of plenty of stuff in common there. So you know, but having kids was kind of like around the same time they were shifting out. But we decided before we even had kids, even when we were still on the evangelical train like that, we weren't gonna hit them ever. And it's such an interesting thing to think about as a parent and looking back at like your own childhood. And it's like, I don't want to do like it. People act like, how do you, like, we've had that conversation even with our parents, and they're like, your kids are so great, they're so well behaved. I'm like, they're like surprised that we don't spank them, and it's like, that's. I was like, yeah, I'd say that, but that's why. Like, that's why they're a little bit more well adjusted.
We can have conversations with them. My kids are at least at the age where we can have conversations with them, and it's really cool. And kids are very on board with basically any kind of boundaries you put up, as long as you give them some amount of say in it. It's really wild how you can literally, like, for most kids, it's like, do you want to put on your PJs or brush your teeth first? Like, those are choices, and they'll actually choose one. I'm you know, my youngest now is like, no, mom, neither, no. But it worked for a long time.
Yeah.
That's a classic sales technique. Yeah, I teach people to do that all the time. I didn't think about it as a parenting technique.
Yeah, you can be a great parent.
Kids are just like thrilled to be able to make a choice because it's a brand new thing for them, because they're brand new people.
And there's like stuff to get excited about. When you look at the things when you become an adult and you look at the things that your kids get excited about, you're like, a general sense of joy over everything. You're like, that's crazy. I forgot that even existed. Yeah. Those are fun.
Cut those off.
Like the good ones, not just the bad ones. I mean, bad ones are there a lot, so I'm pretty familiar with those. But
I feel like in those, we've talked about it a lot, but like the when you're in a place where, especially in that community, where none of the kids are really, like, my little group of people that I hung out, that was, you know, my entire planet for a while.
Right.
Like, none of us were doing anything bad. Like, we were all well behaved. Nobody was doing anything. I mean, even like things that aren't a big deal now. Like, we weren't. Nobody drank. Nobody smoked. Nobody did a whole number of different things. But they find things to be upset about. You know.
Yeah, I mean, just as an example, because I have to make everything about race. You can't hear me rolling my eyes. My mom was like convinced that all of us were going to join a gang. All of her like little suburban raised, homeschooled, always in church, like don't even know what drugs are. We were all just gonna join because it's just, I don't know. It's like it's a cultural thing. No, because you raised us in that culture. Like, what was it? It was just like, oh, you're black, I guess. So that means drugs and gangs.
I feel like that was kind of like almost like a satanic panic sort of thing at that time. Like people that age were freaked out about gangs for whatever reason. Probably Geraldo did an awful special on it or something.
Oh, probably. That's true. No, there were actually there were a lot of awful specials on. Hey, how can we be racist but not
get called out on it?
Get called out. Crime.
Yeah. Black on black crime. Oh, okay.
Like all of the things, like every single crime that you will ever see is being committed right now by this Black youth walking down the sidewalk with his pants sagging a little bit.
Oh, the sagging pants they harped on hard.
Like, again,
yeah.
None of it makes any goddamn sense to me in retrospect. I did think my parents were very smart people, but I was like, you were shitty parents, and I knew that pretty much from the jump.
That's so interesting. I have a question about your parents then, because you haven't said it, but I'm gonna go ahead and speculate, and I know that's wrong. But your dad's Black?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't mention adoption or anything like that, so I figured I'd go out on a limb there.
No, but I do refer to my mother on Twitter as my bio mom.
Okay.
For just so people understand our relationship. Like, this is my biological mother. I don't have another one, but this is her.
I know. That was my follow-up. I was like, okay, so was there another mother in the picture after a while? So what was that like then? Like, so if you're feeling even at that age, at a young age, that maybe that you're picking up on these kind of like just odd racial biases that your mom seems to have even towards her child. What was that like between your parents? I mean, was your dad part of these conversations? Did he talk about race with you guys?
So no, not really. My dad worked a lot. And I don't even think it wasn't like an avoidance thing. Like, we were just really fucking poor. So it was really, and I don't remember my mom making these like explicitly racist statements when my dad was around, but she would like talk shit about his family all the time. She would intentionally harass his family. Like, yeah, she would like misspell and mispronounce their names on purpose because she didn't like how they were spelled.
That's cute.
Yeah, she's a fucking bigot. I hope she hears this. Hi, Mom. She's never going to.
So how's your relationship with your mom now? No.
Yeah, well, actually, I did tell her, I was like, I am so excited to have a really good conversation with you as soon as you set up an appointment in family therapy for both of us to be there and have a talk. And until then, leave me the fuck alone. So,
well, I imagine they're not big on therapy.
I mean, sometimes people change.
Our friend Stephanie Drury suggested that to her parents, and that was the last time they ever spoke to her. So
yeah, that's where we're at right now. But I mean, it hasn't been that in evangelical years. It hasn't been that long. It's been like 16 months.
So were you like all up in? I mean, you said you didn't even leave evangelical until your 30s. So till your 30s. So I imagine like your childhood was very much wrapped up in that youth group, the whole like shebang.
Yep. Pretty much. We went to this. We went to an Assemblies of God church, and both of my parents are like Pentecostal. I don't know why I said that as a question. Like they would call themselves that. So yeah, that was like, church was basically my entire social life because I wasn't allowed to hang out with people who weren't Christians. Because again, gangs. All these white kids who live in the suburbs, they're going to make sure that we get put in gangs.
You're going to start. You need your local chapter. Come on.
It could be. Was it a diverse group of people at the church, or was it primarily white?
No, it was. I would say it was less than 5% people of color. So overwhelmingly,
that was better than the church I grew up in.
Even for Portland, it was overwhelmingly white. So, yeah.
Man.
I know.
So did you have anybody to like the feelings that you had about like inequality and things like that? Did you have any kindred spirits growing up that were like, yeah, I see what you mean, or I feel the same way?
I mean, like as a kid, no. Like not really. Like, it was different once I like got to college, but like, yeah, as a child, I was just, every time I would bring it up to my mom, she would just like laugh it off. And my mom was really the only person that I could talk to because she made it that way. So God. But yeah, once I got to, I went to Bible college for a year and, but actually was able to have like conversations with people, which was really cool. I
What
like
Bible
talking.
college did you go to?
Northwest University in
I don't know.
Kirkland, Washington. It's an Assemblies of God school. So
okay. I know there's a lot of Bible colleges, but there's also some like a few big ones. So I wasn't sure if it'd be one of the ones.
No, it wasn't one of the popular ones. It wasn't
like
one of the cool kids.
Like a Word of Life.
Wait, which one is that again?
They're in New York.
Okay.
Yeah,
one of my siblings went to Rhema. So there's that. Rhema
Maybe I don't know
college.
as many Bible colleges as I thought I did.
That one's charismatic too.
Okay.
It's weird.
Oh, we were not down with the charismatic. Sure.
Oh, okay. See, this is fun for me because I'm like, I knew that there were people who weren't charismatic, but I didn't really know what that was. I was like, you're Catholic? Like,
yeah, that's funny because we were like, I know those people are out there.
Yeah.
Not here, thank God. I mean, I'm not fucking with that. That's for goddamn sure. It's scary.
It's probably pretty similar if you like distilled all of the emotion and feeling out of your church experience.
Yeah. Yes.
Hands in your pocket. Get really worked up over things like, using an overhead to put the lyrics up instead of using hymnals.
Oh boy.
Like that sort of stuff,
We actually had like drums and electric guitar in our church. I don't know if that means anything, but
we did have like a band that was like would do all that, and we were pretty proud of it. Because in the area we had.
You were an actual band?
One of the more upbeat bands. No, I wasn't.
I see.
I just mean like our church had like a good sized band, a lot of instruments, and it really. People bragged about it outside the church walls.
Yeah, same. That was literally like my parents' church does this really big like choir performance event. It's like 2 weekends long. It's kind of intense.
Whoa.
And they have like a full orchestra and but that's kind of how they do like community outreach because it's free. So this is kind of like their big thing to like get people to come check out the church. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, we had lots of music that was mostly decent, honestly. Like there were really talented people at that church, still are. And I would play like in the youth worship band sometimes, but like yeah, it was just I was always there, so it was like why would I not be doing that?
Yeah.
It's like Tori's here, put her on keys.
I had this dream of playing drums for the church band, and I never got the opportunity to embarrass myself publicly. So,
well, the Lord works in mysterious ways.
So, was it like? Was there a? I'm always curious at like people's experiences in that environment, especially if you stick with it for a while. I mean, it's different if you just sort of like ditch it at 18 or whatever, when you leave home. But when you stay with it for a while, was there a strong like sense of community in that church group? I mean, did you have like a lot of friends? Were people involved with each other?
So I started going to another church pretty quickly after I turned like 18, 19. And yeah, I mean, it was legitimately fun. Like we would do church on Friday nights. So we were kind of cool. And then we'd have like food afterwards. Like they'd actually like bring real food. It wasn't like potluck. Like they would actually order stuff. And because they wanted everybody to like come hang out. And then, so yeah, we would do that. That was really fun. And then obviously like once I turned 21, like after church, we would go to bars. So
whoa,
we were a little wild, I guess, for, and like, I'm trying to think about this. Like some people were obviously having sex. I wasn't one of those people at that point. I swore off sex for a little while. I was like, okay, I'm going to repent.
You had a couple of born again virgins in the group, I'm sure.
See how long I can make this shit last. So yeah, I was very terrible at purity culture. Was very terrible at purity culture. It was very terrible at being straight. It's like all these things that I was failing at horrendously.
That's worse than having a hard time being straight's a little bit worse than having a hard time at maintaining the whole purity culture vibe. That does. There's a lot of grace for people who repent of their sexual immorality, but I don't know. The straight not being straight thing is not that's not an easy one. Did you have any was that something you identified? I'm sorry. Was that something you identified as when you were younger, or did you just kind of like kept on the DL, or was it like something you kind of started realizing about yourself?
I mean, I didn't identify that way until I was a little bit until I was in my early 20s, and even then, it wasn't like a thing where I was like, "Oh, I'm out," right? It was just whenever friends would come out to me, I would just like make it about me, I guess. Like be like, oh, okay, well, I'm queer. It's fine. But yeah, like I mean, I guess I knew I was sexually attracted to people who were not men. You know, definitely by high school.
Yeah.
That's usually how that works.
Some people repress it pretty hard and they don't actually realize it.
That's fair.
That's really what I was kind of getting at. Like if I realized at 14 that I got sexually aroused looking at attractive men, I'd be like, no, that's not what's happening here. And then you like move on.
That's fair. That is absolutely valid. Yeah, it was wild. Like it was definitely not a choice. I'll say that. Like I was in church every fucking week. I was in church more than Jesus, and I was still extremely gay. So, yeah, that's not how that works at all. I'm sorry. Attraction, not
hate
not
to break
a thing
it to
that
some of the listeners here,
right. Your sexual attracted orientation. It's not something you just choose from a list.
Did you have to go through any sort of like conversion therapy or special attention or anything like that?
No. I mean, I definitely like pretty much kept it on the DL. I guess in the way that it was like, okay, well, like I'm clearly not only attracted to men, so that's a thing. But I also can't do anything about it because that's sinning. So it's fine. I'm just gonna like roll with not really saying anything because yeah,
that makes sense. Did so when you said it's like so you said you did a year Bible college, you
had sex, really good sex
at Bible college.
Nice work.
I don't know. Like I just want to like put that out there. It's a thing that can happen.
No, you're lying. So we'll move on from this quickly.
Okay. No, everybody's like, well, not everybody, but people have asked me because of purity culture, like, oh, was it really traumatic for you the first time you had sex? I was like, nope. I mean, PIV sex. Let's be clear. It's like, no, actually, it was awesome. So
that's so interesting that you didn't. Okay, I'm fascinated by your perspectives only because you were comfortable critiquing your parents' parenting when you were 9. Like there's something about you that's just like almost like even though you were like in that culture and participated in it, there was a resilience to some of the aspects of it that seemed like they didn't like sink in the way that they did with some other people. For you to be able to not feel guilty about sex or to be able to like call out bad parenting and like, I'm guessing that those are like bookends to like a bunch of other instances in the middle of which people didn't like maybe some of your opinions or what you had to say about things.
Oh yeah, no, people did not like my opinions in church at all, ever.
Did you love that a little bit?
I mean, I'm an Enneagram 8, so yeah, it was like, and I have a 7 wing, so I really thrive in chaos where I can come in and just smash someone in an argument. Or as I say now, I like to light people's Twitter hair on fire. But that like brings me joy. So yeah, no, people were not about justice in any of those spaces, and I was. So yeah, I mean, I definitely I was like, okay, I need to stop having sex until I get married, which I didn't quite do, but I tried. And I need to start going to church regularly, and I need to vote Republican, I guess. I still care about people, and also a lot of this is bullshit. I really did do the compassionate conservative bullshit. I was like, oh yeah, that's me, right? I'm not trying to fuck people over.
I had that phase as well.
Jesus was a white Republican dude. Like, this is obvious. No, I didn't and I didn't even think that. I was like, this is like the mission of Christ as we understand it through like all of the, all of the documents that we have managed to like scrape together, was so much broader than any of that shit, right? And I was like, I could always see that part of it. Again, my mom wanted me to be a Republican. Like she would have my brother and me go, what is the word? Campaign for local Republican politicians. So we'd like go door to door and like ask people to vote for my mom's friends. And my mom was like,
"That's awful."
My mom was in.
It's like Jehovah's Witness, but political.
It was so fucking bad. My brother and I got to the point where we would just like drive over and like just park and not actually get out of the car and go do the thing. So there's that. Yeah, but and my mom was like an anti-abortion activist in Oregon, and Oregon in the early 90s, I believe, was trying to make abortion a constitutional right in the state constitution.
Okay.
So my mom was very anti that and did a shit ton of organizing, and like so she and her little buddies would like they'd go protest, and my mom had me watch like anti-abortion propaganda before I could read. So she got an award from Phyllis Schlafly, if that means anything to anybody listening.
It's not ringing any bells for
me. Yeah. So she was the founder of Eagle Forum. Basically, she weaponized like white, conservative, suburban women against like any kind of social policy because, well, at the end of the day, like maybe they are doing some good things, but they're also killing babies. So she really like organized a shit ton of that stuff. And
the propaganda for that movement was like brutal. Like the videos, the way that they tried to, they lingered on like a lot of imagery in order to
grotesque details.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to push that.
Yeah.
There's like, what was it, 2 weeks ago? So there's a truck that drives around in Wichita.
Yep, the truck.
Yeah, they used to come to Liberty, truck? Dude. Did you remember the Liberty's campus?
No,
I don't think I saw it at Liberty.
I've definitely seen the truck here.
Yeah, they used to come to Liberty.
Like just horrible pictures of dead babies and fetuses and things like that all over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I see that truck around periodically, and then there's like it's not even like a Planned Parenthood. It's just like a
clinic,
pregnancy help center,
Yeah.
And once in a while somebody's standing outside. But yeah, like 2 weeks ago, there was somebody standing outside with a sign like this 2 foot by 3 foot picture of a dead fetus on this sign standing. And it's so hard to remember how you justified stuff like that. And nobody in my group would have done that. That's way, way out there,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just a bizarre form of extremism.
There is a clinic a couple blocks from me. And so I drove past one day and I noticed that there were some people like standing out front, and I was like, oh, is this my moment? And so I like literally like run into the house, change shoes because it's fucking cold outside and I don't want to be standing outside for a long time in my chucks because I know that these conversations take a minute. So I'm literally like getting dressed to go have a conversation with these two people. And I like go down there and I'm like, hey, can you like tell me about this sign that you have? Because it was, I'm not going to say what it was, but it's like this organization that obviously doesn't like abortion, a Christian organization. I should be more specific than this. And so, had a long conversation with this individual who, there were other people there. I literally scared multiple of them off. Like this guy was the only one who stayed, and he literally was like, okay, well, I have to go now, which he didn't have to. I was just God. Right there.
Like, you had this blocked for like at least 4 hours of standing here. Come on.
Yeah, you charged the plate.
The only reason that I left was because I had to like run an errand before I picked my kids up from school. But I was like, that gives me at least 45 minutes to an hour to talk this motherfucker down. And I was like, okay, so like, let's talk. Like, we have to talk about the consequences of your policies because they're harmful, right? But he wasn't, this is rude. He wasn't really like up to my level. Didn't really understand.
Not entirely surprised, but
just didn't understand. Like, felt like the solutions for everything were like people he knew individually. Who's like, well, I know someone who can babysit your kid, right? Like, I know somebody who can take you to the hospital.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, okay, but what about like the 20, 30, 40,000 other people in our town who are right now pregnant? Like, what about them? I have no idea how many pregnant people are in my town. And I was like, you are advocating for the use of state violence against people who have a uterus. And he like did not understand, like could not understand the words that were coming out of my mouth. Yeah. And I definitely remember being in that space where I couldn't fully grasp like what somebody was talking about. And I really did try to like unpack it for him. I was like, look, if you want to ban abortion, you have to use state violence. That is the only way to do it, right? To enforce this ban that you are advocating for. Thankfully, again, that particular group is not advocating for policy changes specifically, or at least if they were, like, he had no fucking clue. Anyway, that was like my fun thing for the week last week. And
I love that.
I think he's still down there, so I'm gonna go back.
I'm
gonna go back and be like, hi buddy, how's it going?
I would like go
talk about some shit.
I would definitely have to pound like 4 or 5, 6 beers before I decide to go ahead and return and have that conversation.
Oh, no. That's how this is what gets me high.
I don't know. That's terrible to me. I like, especially when it comes to like family members. As soon as stuff like this comes up, I'm just like, I'm out. I can't do it.
I'm so fighty. My parents have always hated this about me. I am so fucking fighty. Like, I will go toe to toe with you every single time. And my parents really just like, they ultimately like made a rule that like, when they said the conversation was over, like the conversation was over and I couldn't talk to my siblings about it even because they were like, you just want to talk about stuff forever. And I'm like, yeah, because what you're doing is fundamentally fucked, Mom. Like, of course I want to talk about it until you figure that out. So yeah, they had to ban my rants, my tirades.
That's such a hilarious punishment. The conversation's over. Shut the fuck up, kid. Well, it's funny thinking about the conversations you're having with people in that space about abortion. It's like when you shift out of that line of thinking that we came from, where it's like, it to be honest, it's simple answers. It's very like cut and dry, black and white, and
it kind of is.
So when you like move on, like this is how I feel about like as I shifted out of evangelicalism, and you're like they want to have a conversation about what they think the Bible says. You're like, look, we can't even talk about these issues until we have a conversation, 10 other conversations about how the Bible actually works, what it is, why it's here, how it was put together, why we don't think the same things about it. Like, it's same with abortion. It's like, you want to have a conversation about like this one aspect, whether or not a philosophical argument about when life begins. Right. But what about all the other things, which is, and this is something it took me forever to understand. Like, again, late to the game, and probably still misinformed. But even when you look at like having kids and watching people around you have kids, and the amount of times that the only system set up to make it a viable option is like really women get time. If anyone, I mean, and that's a more recent thing. But like men get like, they have to use their vacation time. They get 2-3 weeks. Now that's changing in Massachusetts where I live, which is cool. But when you think of how like the options that have been available to people for so long, when you look at the disparity in the way that men and women are paid, of course, the woman's always going to be the one to dip from their professional career because they're getting paid
Cultural
less
coding.
historically.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
like you have to
totally.
address like at least a dozen other problems in
Yep.
society before you
Yep.
can even really get to like
Yep.
why all that stacks up against your philosophical argument that really is an it's like it's a epistemological dead end.
Yes, I agree. And you know, I did try to bring that up. I was like, look, okay, if you're trying to save babies like in this town right now, who like, what about that?
Well, they're alive, so you know, for now.
I mean, that's kind of what he said. He was like, so you think it's better to be aborted than to live up in poverty? Someone who grew up in poverty, I wouldn't know if I was aborted, dumbass. Like,
yeah, I know. I don't know. I was aborted, and it's pretty great. I'm doing good. So.
Oh my god, we had Mason Meninga on Go Home Bible You're Drunk, and yeah, he was like, I would have wanted to be an aborted baby because you get like a sticker in heaven and you get to walk around and be like, yeah, bitches, I was aborted.
You get an extra crown. An exclusive
He's
crown.
somewhat on my list.
Oh, heaven. Don't want to go there. That was another thing. Oh my gosh, as a kid, I did not want to go to heaven. I was like, this sounds awful. What are you fucking
everybody
doing?
praise Jesus all day. Everyone felt that. No one fucking said it. I bet you said it. You seem like the kind of person.
Oh, I did. I was like, I don't think I want to go. You know, I told my mom, I was like, I don't think I want to go.
We're just going to sing these 4-chord praise and worship songs forever.
Forever.
I want to die. Just let me die. Right. Can I just turn off the light switch, please?
That's literally, that was my plan. I was like, I'm going to get to heaven and I'm just going to be like, yo, look, you've got some folks here doing your choir shit. Like, can I just bounce? Like, just cancel me.
Yeah. You're like, do they have suicide in heaven? No?
I know, like, I want to stop existing. This is exhausting. I did this my whole damn life.
You're telling me that I can't call it quits at all.
Never.
Dude, there's a great like fiction book in there somewhere about people who die and go to heaven and slowly realize that it's like an eternal torment. Yeah. You know?
There's just less fire.
Didn't C.S. Lewis have a little something like that?
The Great Divorce? Which one are you talking about, C.S. Lewis?
Yeah, no. Was it The Great Divorce? C.S. Lewis kind of had something like that. It was like more about a journey or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, it was about, Casey.
It was like purgatory-ish.
Yeah, Purgatory Light
or something.
Yeah, you're thinking of Frank Peretti, Sam.
Oh fuck that guy.
He's as prolific as Stephen King at like just. I don't know what it's like to not stack up to any literary works, but to write that much. You can do that only with like Christian publishing, right? You can always be like just okay enough to get published and
and they will sell your shit for
like,
sure. Like
I'm still waiting on God's Not Dead 12.
Were they? Yeah. Oh, cool. that one's about an aborted fetus. Do you believe in God? I can't talk. Oh my gosh.
What is funny about the abortion thing? The like whole abortion argument is like life is life, right? That's the crux of the conservative position on it. That there is no
as long as you haven't committed any serious crimes yet.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the thing is like the argument that they make is that like life is life. There is no hierarchy to life. If you're alive, and you have the same fundamental rights and blah blah blah. But they clearly have a hierarchy to life. Like,
yeah,
it's you know, when they make arguments against like having even simple provisions for like the health of the mother, it's like, well,
right.
You're putting a hierarchy in place there, aren't you? Like,
right.
I don't know. It's just it's like this weird, just mental merry-go-round. That whole argument
it is. It's an ideological cul-de-sac. Absolutely. Like there's nowhere to go with it.
Yep.
And I think that's why they use it. I think that's why it was something they could weaponize because it's like, you can't get out. Like once you're on that train, like it just goes in a circle forever. There's nowhere to go with it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I think so. It's like, do what you want, you know, think what you want, do what you want. Just don't try to make policy out of it. If you want to think that over there, go think that over there. Don't make policy that affects everyone else.
Love this. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, I mean, I feel like that's not even an abortion issue for me. That's just like basic morality. Like, don't politicize people's bodies because when you do, you wind up with bullshit like the 3/5 compromise and like,
no fucking shit. Holy cow.
Indian savages being literally in the Constitution. Like, when you start politicizing people's bodies, like you are that's like you're already in a very fucked up position. Like morally, I think you have lost like any moral high ground or argument at that point, period. Right.
Yeah.
And so, and you know, it's precisely the same for like transgender folks and non-binary folks. I you know, it's like once you are politicizing someone's body in order to like score points or like, I mean, technically get votes, but like score points for your team, like that's fucked up. Like that's a line, right? And we haven't even gotten to the point where we are like, we're not going to politicize people's bodies. We haven't even like we haven't even gotten there.
From the like, it's ironically from the limited government, stay out of my business party, and then there's a quick shift when it comes to people that make them uncomfortable. It's like let's put a circle around these people and make rules for them.
What is your gender? I need to know what your gender is because I need to know how to treat you right now, and I can't tell.
If it doesn't look like either of these people on the bathroom stalls, we have a problem. It's like, okay, those are stick figures.
Have a fucking problem.
Well, stick figures. I don't know.
Like, here's the thing: if I can't tell if you are a man or a woman very clearly, then that just means that like you're probably going to assault me. So I'm just going to preemptively call like white lady customer service. I mean 911 and get your ass arrested. Like it's constant. It's everywhere. And it like, yeah, it's just, you can't get out of these arguments with them.
Yeah, it's true. It's the same circulatory reasoning that keeps bringing you around. And you're like, I'm tired. I don't have time to answer the same question 12 times in a row. I'm going home.
Oh, what about, have you seen me on Twitter?
No,
I have time.
I'm talking to me. I know where you're at.
Sorry.
I'm tired, Tori. I don't have it in me anymore.
I respect that. Absolutely. I do.
What about euthanasia? That's a very weird subject in that community. You know, like
I know they were. Oh my god, they were so. Oh my god, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
I remember that being talked about in World Magazine. Did you guys get World Magazine? Nice.
No, my mom probably got a subscription for it at the library, so she wouldn't have to pay for it because my mom was a library volunteer. So she got to help choose like which magazines they would subscribe to. Yeah, no, I definitely remember that one. That was a doozy.
Yeah, that was fun.
That one's weird because it's like now you are talking about someone's choice over their own body without a doubt. Without a doubt. That is exactly what you're talking about. There's like all the fundamental premise of like, that's a person that can't choose.
Right.
Like, that's not a factor in euthanasia, but universally against it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
God
you wanting to end your suffering before your body gives up is offensive to me as a human being. Like, what are you even talking about? But it's again, it's like this entire culture, like even like white evangelicalism, especially, is like punishment is the point, right? Like the point of it is to control
self-flagellation.
You want people to control themselves so that you don't have to do it. But barring that, you want to be able to control people. You want to be able to control every aspect of their lives. Which again, it's like you're talking about small government and out here trying to recreate some kind of weird thing where nobody gets any say in anything except like if they choose to make $11 an hour or $12 an hour because they're choosing between like McDonald's and Burger King. Like those are the choices you want people to make.
Yeah.
It is like, to me, it's not like a cut and dry issue, but it's just proof that what they're arguing in terms of abortion is not like, it doesn't have any legs. It's just words that are coming out of their mouth. And just to clarify, when I say it's not a cut and dry issue, I understand that like it can be really touchy for some people to feel a certain way about like, if I want my life to end, like because I'm suffering physically, people see that as very different from like, if I want my life to end because I'm suffering mentally. And again, like this is like a hierarchy thing. Thanks Descartes or whoever the fuck, but it's like the brain versus body stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like there's only a certain kind of suffering exists, right? And
no,
it doesn't matter.
It's a
right?
tough line to walk.
it's the specific type of physical suffering. That is the only kind that exists. That's the only kind that merits any kind of attention. And also, we are going to use that specifically to make you do the things that we want you to do, right? Whether you're talking about like corporal punishment with your kids or like the prison industrial complex, like the rules for the game are pretty much the same, right? It's like it's like you're not a human being, right? You are a thing that I control. And I mean, that's how I was parented. I don't know about you guys. And it takes you to these really, really dark places where, you know, you're having these conversations about like, no, it's really important for me, for my personal religious beliefs, that you suffer as long as humanly possible, right? And this is the thing with fatal like birth defects too. Is it's like, well, you still have to have the baby because you can't kill it because that's not fair. And it's like, well, yeah, but there's a difference between like being able to feel pain and not being able to feel pain. And like, why would we want to put, first of all, a mother through the psychological trauma of giving birth to a baby that is literally going to die? And also like, why I thought like fetus lives matter, right? Like, why is it as soon as like the baby's born, it's like, well, fuck it, sorry, you're in pain, it's just gonna have to be that way, you've got about 72 minutes. Like, you guys, your morality is just fundamentally fucked. And it's all built around this like punishment, this idea of punishment is better than like any kind of cooperation, right? It is better than working together. It is better than even having a conversation, right? At least, again, like I'm projecting a little bit because this is how I was raised, but it was always like punishment is the best option, regardless of like what the situation is. And like you said, we weren't even doing anything that was really horribly wrong, right? Like I like TP'd someone's house, you know? It's what are you even doing? It's
Going
not,
down
we're not doing
dark
right.
road.
We're not. It's a slippery slope from TP to gangbanging. But there's this thing of punishment is the only option. Like, we're not even gonna have a conversation with you, right? That's it.
Yeah. I wonder if some of that comes from that feeling of like the message, the type of Christian message I had as a kid, you know, was all like we're all wicked and the heart is deceitful above all things. Like, there's this narrative that we're all absolutely garbage and trash, and if it was by the grace of God and the redeeming blood of Christ, and it's like, I feel like that probably subconsciously, because I don't think anyone said it explicitly, but it probably subconsciously brings in these ideas of like, you deserve bad things when you do bad things, because you really deserve bad things in hell all the time. So just not getting that is grace enough. And I'm sure, I feel like that might have something to do with it. I'm not sure.
Well, and it's really interesting that specific part, that specific piece of it is really interesting, because it's like when that is being preached from the pulpit by someone who frequently has there's no authority over that person at all, right? Like, when you're talking about these autonomous churches, that only goes one direction, and it's down. Like, there's no like, this doesn't apply to me. Like, I get grace, right? Like, yeah, I'm a sinner too. I fuck up, but I get grace. I don't get punishment. Like, the rules are just different for people in power. Like, hello, look at Donald Trump. Like, the consequences do not apply to me, but I will enforce them with everything I have.
Yeah, there is a weird obsession, and I think it's strong in that community, and I think like the after effects, even after you leave it, it's almost like it's a very American idea, like this obsession with punishment, and like spank your kids when they make choices you don't agree with, and then when adults make choices we don't agree with, life spanks them, and we need to protect that. If there's not consequences, the whole place is gonna like come untied, you know? So like, we can't talk about why drug addiction is a problem, why it's happening. We just have to up the consequence. You know why this is a problem? The consequences aren't dire enough. Mandatory minimums, put them in jail forever. And when time after time you see that doesn't address the fundamental problem that is leading to that outcome, there's like such a romantic, sentimental attachment to the punishment structure that it's almost impossible to try to get it to change, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, and this definitely goes much farther than evangelicalism. You know, like I live like in Portland. Our mayor is so our mayor is the police commissioner. Just going to do this really quickly, and he wants more money for the cops. And we were like, no, defund the police. And he was like, well, yeah, but now they're really, really busy and it takes them a long time to respond to calls. And so basically we have like many other major cities, there was a huge uptick in people who were unhoused because of the pandemic and the way that fucked up the economy and anybody who was close to the edge. And these are things that, like, even if you're not going to house someone, even if you're not going to provide them shelter, like you can pick up you can have trash pickup like at homeless camps, right? Like this is really basic. And he just straight up refuses to do that because he wants it to look bad. Like he wants the city to look awful so that he can run with this narrative of we need more cops. And it's like we very clearly have the data that shows that, like, when you house people, crime will go down. We know this. Other countries have done this. Other cities in the US have done this. Like, we know how to fix these problems, and it's less expensive. Like, housing someone for a year is like, okay, in our city, like, let's be extravagant, I guess. You can find cheaper housing than this, but let's say it's $30,000 a year. Someone being in jail for a year is like $130,000. Like, I realized today, literally, I was like, oh, we live in the fucking Hunger Games. We just tell ourselves that we don't. Like, we just have to have this thing. Like, these people who are beneath us, right? And we put this massive investment into watching them suffer because it's literally less expensive to, like, house someone, feed them, give them medical care and therapy and job training than to keep them in jail for a year by like a third. This is what we're choosing, right?
It's unbelievable.
We're choosing punishment, and it's not even because it's like we can't afford anything else. We literally are spending 3 times as much to do this to people. It makes no sense to me.
I don't get to own stock in prison camps or homeless camps. I messed up my own joke.
That's true. I'm like, you don't, but you do get to whine about how unsafe you feel.
So especially if you're white, it's great. So
mostly if you're white, yeah, it's
I want to. I love this, but I actually do want to get into how you transitioned out of kind of I mean, you were so into it for so long. Like, why 30? Why? Like, what kind of? It sounds like you were on that path. I mean, I recognize the path a little bit, and so. But what was the kind of that final straw? Because if I'm understanding this correctly, you don't call yourself Christian anymore,
right?
And that's a big step. And a lot of people are functionally who they are and kind of just trying to blend it. But making that step that they could do in the whole like plunge into I'm just not a Christian anymore. When did you get to that point? Like, what kind of led up to that? And
so I think that the thing that kind of broke the camel's back for me in my particular case was seeing the response from my denomination to Michael Brown being murdered, and kind of going like, oh, like, you say that God created everyone equal, and you taught me my entire life to love my neighbor, but you don't actually mean any of that. Like, that doesn't apply. Again, it's like, that doesn't apply to you for some reason. And so I was like, oh, I'm very much not wanted in this space. Like, I am not valued here. Okay. And I'm like, I'm making it sound kind of flippant right now. It was traumatizing. Like, it took me 3 years to even like figure it out. Like, it was so horrifically violent and racist, their responses. So it was not like this, oh, you don't like me. It was like, holy fuck, like, this is terrifying, right? Like, this is what you want to apply to anyone who does anything that you don't like and doesn't look like you, right? And so I was kind of like, y'all, this is kind of fucked. And so I was like, I want to, like, maybe I should just check out other churches, because that was in 2014, and so I kind of like slowly started trying to like disentangle myself from the church that I was in, which was weirdly fucked up and messy also. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just check out some other churches just to see like what's going on. And it was just really hard because, I was in these spaces where, again, it was like my quote unquote peers in those spaces, like young moms. I was like, you don't have real problems. Like the things that you were bringing up are not. I'm sitting here thinking about like the person the cops killed yesterday, and you're concerned about like you're not going to be able to trade in your leased car for an extra 6 months because something, and your mom didn't die in time, so you didn't get your inheritance. Like I was just like, you people do not have real problems. Right. And so I was like, yeah, I'm not loving this. And the other thing too
Whole
was
Foods
like,
stopped carrying their favorite organic brand.
oh my gosh, right? It's like, ew.
I can't buy pretzel buns anywhere.
Pretzel buns are good, man. They have them at Trader Joe's.
Pro tip.
So I was like, oh, I don't like this. And I was thinking very critically, and I'd always been thinking very critically about like the way that I was just expected to be anti-queer, despite like everything I knew about myself. And I, to use some major Christianese, like wrestled with that for over a decade, because I was just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Right? Like I'm not supposed to love queer people. At least I'm supposed to vote in a way that punishes them for existing. Right. And so I finally had a couple of realizations. One of them was with queer folks. I was like, okay, so if we're going to draw a circle for like who's in and who's out, I would rather include too many people than exclude people that Jesus has cared for and loved and wants me to do the same. Right. So that was a major one. The other thing was like playing with my kids, like playing soccer in the front yard of our house and realizing like, if God were my next door neighbor and he was a parent of a young child and he behaved the way towards that young child that he behaved, like in a smaller sense, like he treated that child the way he treated anyone in the Bible that he didn't like, I would call CPS. And I don't even believe in calling the fucking cops, you guys. Like, I'm just like, that's fucking gross. Like, I'm a better person than God. Right? Because it's like my kid messes up and I just tell them like, hey, like, let's talk, right? Like, let's talk about why I'm frustrated. Let's talk about why you're frustrated and why I don't like cleaning up when you dump a quart of syrup on the floor.
Yeah. And then after they do it a second time, you apply curses to their children's children, right? You do that afterwards. I mean, at some point you have to apply a generational curse.
A generational curse, yes. Like, I'm sorry, you're going to be slaves of your brother. Oh, it happens. That's just how it goes.
Look, sucks to suck, but you shouldn't have fucked up. I don't know.
You shouldn't have done
it's your problem.
Man. I didn't
have
tell
some
you.
Personal responsibility, asshole.
Right. You didn't know what the rules were, so yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens. And I'm just like just putting this down to scale, just the idea of hell, right? Like just the idea that like hell exists and God created it. I'm like, okay, so that means that like in order for me to parent the way that God parents, I would have to basically use like a blowtorch on my kid every time they fucked up.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
With no explanation.
Analogy, but it's
like
true.
No explanation. I don't have to give any kind of information before or after. It's just like, nope. You're burning. Yeah. And I was just like, no, we're not doing that shit. No, thank you. So that was a huge one for me. And I was kind of like, oh, like that means that God can be wrong about things. Like, God was wrong about shit.
Yeah. So like, I guess the question I want to ask to that is, and this is explaining, not really, I don't feel like you're defending yourself. I hate this question. But so like, some people go, I'm done. I'm not Christian anymore. This isn't going to work for me. I can't keep this language or these metaphors. And some people go like the liberal Christian route where they would agree with everything you said, where, right. Or God's not wrong, but you don't really, like, what you have in the Bible is just like, obviously not what God's like, or that's not how the Bible works. So like, what was it about your experience that made you go, like that just kind of pushed you out versus feeling like you needed to keep the language, I guess, grafted to you and move into like a liberal theology or something like that?
So honestly, what it was I went back to school, and so I started taking, I took a couple of biology classes, and like growing up in, my parents were not young Earth creationists growing up, which is something that they were not fanatics about for some. But so I'm like taking this biology class, and growing up, you're taught like, okay, there's science and there's the Bible, right? And they're both, it's like they're both just books. Right? They're both people's ideas about how the world works. And like I got into class and I was like, oh no, like these are ideas that build upon one another. And we're frequently wrong about shit and having to correct it. But we still have, like, over the last 100 years, let's just say, like, we've accumulated a lot of data to back up these ideas that we're pretty, like, we're not just like running with evolution for no reason, because we hate God. Like there's actually data here, right? And we can look at DNA, right? And we can look at the fossil record and we can compare things to see if they line up, right? And I was just, I'd never taken a real science class in my entire life. And
I technically still haven't, so that's cool of you.
That's fair. This was I was like, oh, like this is incredible on its own. Like I don't need a creator to make this awe-inspiring. Like this shit is wild, man. And I'm in awe of it every single day. And like I'm obsessed with hiking, which, if you follow me on Twitter, you know that. Like obsessed. Like I'm weird. And I'm just like, oh my God, like trees. Fucking trees. Like have you ever just sat down and like sat with the tree? I don't know why. Like I'm like, and it's not even like it's not even like hippie bullshit. Like it's not woo at all. I'm just like, this is fucking incredible.
What about magnets?
I appreciate your lack of woo. I applaud that. I love it.
I do like astrology memes, but that's a different thing. But yeah, I'm just like, oh my God, like all of this stacks up, like all of it adds up. And like the Bible, for starters, because it's a bunch of books and maps and weird emails that didn't get sent in time. Like it's so like it contradicts itself very frequently, right? Because it's not, it wasn't meant to be a cohesive narrative.
Right.
And hey, look, science contradicts itself very frequently too. And we get to figure out like, okay, we have to re-examine this. We have to go back and remeasure. We have to change the parameters of what we're looking at. And when we get better information, we improve, right? And with the Bible, when you get better information, you just have to double down. And I was like, oh, okay, like I'm like, I love this. All of this is beautiful. And it's just as awe-inspiring as believing that God made all of it. And like, I know how I fucking felt the first time I saw the Canadian Rockies. Like that shit was real, right? And it doesn't matter if God created that or not. Like that is awe-inspiring to me. Well, some people don't like mountains or whatever. This is truly incredible. Like seeing a fucking comet. Like this shit is incredible. And I'm like, I just don't need someone to have made it. Like it's almost a little bit more incredible if it just happened.
I'm with you there. That's about how I feel too. And like, you always hear Christians say that sort of thing, like, creation is, you look at creation and be in awe of the God who created it and stuff. And it's like, I'm the same way. Like I spent a lot of time outside. Like we're about to go on a big trip. We will spend 90% of our time during the day, probably like bent over looking at rocks and bugs. And
oh my gosh,
it's
amazing.
You made me nervous when you started with bent over. So it ended in a way that, I don't know. You have outside activities.
Bugs are so cool.
Yeah, I remember last year, like, we were walking around because we live on some property outside of Wichita. And it was like the time of the year when the walnuts are all like falling off and acorns and stuff. And, we got these like big acorns, ones with the big hats on top, the furry ones. And I was like, popped the top off of this acorn and I'm looking at it, and like the shell has this just like beautiful, like marbled brown pattern to it. And there's so many colors and stuff. And I'm sitting there looking at it. I'm like this is such a small thing that's like it's awe-inspiring. Like it's so beautiful, and it will be gone in a month. And then next year there'll be more, you know, and it's fleeting, and it's great. And it's like like I don't identify with like the spiritual side of that kind of stuff, but it doesn't make it any less
it doesn't
gratifying, you know.
It doesn't take anything away, at least for me, that like not believing in a higher power or what have you, like that doesn't take anything away from those kinds of experiences for me. I just, you know, and I think that, you know, now that I don't have to worry about being sent to heaven, I'm like, oh, I get to like enjoy all of this right now. And then, you know, because I'm not going to have it forever. And I'm, you know, thankfully not going to be anywhere forever. And this is great. This is gorgeous. Like, and I also get to go to the coast and like see the fucking Milky Way and go, oh, like I'm a germ. Like I do not matter in any of this at all. And I do. Like I also have immense value, and because I have like value and privilege, like I need to, like relative privilege, but still like I need to spend that on behalf of people who have less. And it's just weird to be in this very interesting kind of dichotomy, right? Of like nothing matters at all. Like we are so irrelevant on this. We're like Earth is not even a speck of dust in the universe, like functionally speaking. And I still get to see this beauty, and I still get to care for my fucking neighbors. Like that is cool. Like that is amazing. So that's really where I landed on it.
No, I think that's great. It's like the difference between like, the difference between like meaning being like intrinsic versus something that is you give meaning. Like meaning, like there's in Christianity, it's like, and especially the kind that we grew up in, it's like things specifically have meaning because they have meaning, because they have meaning, because they have meaning. Like it comes from nothing, just like God. So it works out and you don't have to explain anything. But like really all meaning is just prescribed by the individual. And as a society, you get to have conversations about why things should or shouldn't have meaning. Like, you know, we have obviously talked so far about the things that, you know, some of these conservatives that we disagree with, and that the things that they place meaning on versus the things that we place meaning on. But I think that's what's tough, you know, and why it makes it tough for people to make the leap to that more of just the gray area, the ethical gray area, the moral gray area. Because it's like once meaning isn't like intrinsic,
right?
You have to figure that out together. And it's like, well, I feel like I have meaning, so therefore I have meaning, and therefore I want to treat other people the way it kind of just, I mean, you kind of get back to the golden rule in a sense, but we're talking about like abortion,
you really do.
Societal ills and how to address them, it's like, because we're still, all of us who have left this idea that says meaning's intrinsically applied and therefore we apply it to fetuses and then ignore the rest of the conversation. No, we arrived where we're at because we recognize that meaning is powerful, and that it is what makes us maybe human, our ability to apply meaning to certain things. I don't know. So I think hearing your perspective on that is neat, and I appreciate that.
Thanks.
So like on the same note, as far as I think we talked a lot about like the security of certainty, you know, and how some people that's like a warm blanket to them, right? Just like knowing the ultimate purpose of everything, and just having no doubts as to what, you know, that God created the universe and blah 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 blah. Like I feel like even going back to the context of like looking at a tree, like to me, looking at that tree as a young person and feeling those feelings, and then having to like square them with this feelings that I should have about this, or that God is great and that he created this and I should be in awe of that. And, you know, feeling like this constant need and guilt over like making sure you're prescribing that meaning to the right things, you know, and for me, it was like a weight off my shoulders, not having to do that anymore, to just be able to be like, it's a, you know, that mountain is incredible. It's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great thing. And I don't know where it came from or why it's here or if there's even answers to those questions. And that's fine. I really don't care. I'm
sorry. There are answers in Genesis. I don't know if you've heard about this, but
Kenny boy.
Right.
We got to reach out to Kenny boy.
Sorry. Oh man. Yeah. Like just as an example, like I've recently started getting into like just geology and like rock formations because again, like hiking and I'm outside a lot and we're on the very edge of a like tectonic plate in Portland. And so there's a lot of really weird like geological shit that goes on here. And I earlier in the year, like this last summer, one of the hikes that I went on is one that I'd been meaning to go on forever, and had like finally got around to doing it. And it's a loop, but you go to this waterfall, and we got there. The waterfall was gorgeous, and we're just like sitting in the trees and like just enjoying this moment, and it's like lightly raining, and so eventually like we move on, right? And so it's like, okay, well, that was the thing, right? That was the thing that we came to see. And we're walking and we come like not to a clearing, but to like the trees are spaced out much further, and like the rocks are lined up the wrong direction. Like they fell down. They're literally vertical and not horizontal. And I'm like, what the fuck happened here? And then there's like all these crushed rocks like underneath, like coming towards the path. And then there's these massive boulders on the other side of the river. And I was like, this shit fell down at some point. I don't know when, but like, that's amazing. This was like, I was joking about this, but it's actually true. This is like the first hike that I have ever been on where I like audibly screamed. I was like so excited, and it was absolutely stunning. Like the colors were amazing, and you could see like I was just like did a mountain fall over here? Like what happened? And I started Googling it because I'm a nerd, and but it was such an incredible moment. I was like, this isn't how rocks work. This isn't how gravity works. Like what has happened? And those rocks have maybe they've been there for 40, 50, 100,000 years, tipped over like that. I don't know. But I walked past and I was like, this is what connects me personally. Like, this is what connects me to like where I exist. And yeah, I do choose to find meaning in that. I also, again, like I choose to value my neighbors because I would like to be valued. And it just seems like, hey, golden rule shit, right? Yeah, there's so many places to find like awe and wonder and to be inspired. And it's really interesting coming from like a religious background where like the earth was made to be used up and exploited, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's that is bananas. And I tweeted about this.
We're supposed to be good stewards of it, Tori.
It says that the earth will be used up like a garment, and then God's just going to make us a new one. Okay. So
one of our chapel
used up
services,
like a whack rag. That's what my translation said. I don't.
One of our big chapel
reading?
services at Liberty, Jerry Falwell said from the pulpit that we shouldn't care about environmentalism because God says he's going to destroy the earth in the end times anyways. So like, who cares?
Yeah,
Classic
totally.
Jerry.
Then he died.
Oh yeah, that's for sure classic Jerry. But it's really wild to me that somebody like shows up in the redwoods and says, you know what would be great is if we cut all this shit down. Right?
It's so painful to hear.
And that's what I was told growing up. I was told that is what God wants us to do, is he wants us to subdue the earth. Not fucking possible, by the way. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Like, the earth will subdue us, I promise, honey. You ain't going anywhere.
Subdue me, daddy. No.
See Dust Bowl.
Right? I'm like you can fuck with the planet and she will fuck with you right back. So
yeah, she's gonna kill us all. It's cool. I mean, thanks.
Yeah.
We get it.
Fucking around, finding out.
Earned it.
It's a real thing. Yeah, we earned it. We did this ourselves, guys. But yeah, it's just so weird coming from this space where you're not supposed to find particular meaning in this. Like, yeah, you're supposed to give it to God, and also you're supposed to use it to get wealthy. Like,
Yeah.
you're supposed to use it to create shit that you can sell to people. And it's like, clearly it's not working, right? Clearly the people who have been here took excellent care of this place, because once they were all killed off by disease, you couldn't tell that they had been here. Like,
oh my God.
It's possible to like live with alongside the planet and not to see it as like an adversary, not to see it as something to be exploited and consumed and thrown away. But here we are.
That sounds like one of those like spiritual woo-woo bullshit messages that my parents didn't like about the movie Pocahontas. So I'm gonna have to pass.
Or Avatar.
Yeah, Avatar too.
No.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to hard pass on that, Tori, but I appreciate your thoughts.
My mom was like, you can't watch Star Wars because Yoda is a demon.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Oops.
That's a new one to me. I have not.
I know.
Is...
Oh my God. She's bananas. That is not a joke.
Well,
sorry, my alarm is going off, and it's
no, you're fine,
you guys. It's for my kid's OT, and
that's okay.
He's doing it, so good. It's fine.
No, we've had you on for a while, and it's been so much fun. I don't know if there's anything you want to, throw out there and if you have final comments, there's something you were hoping to get out that we walked all over you with dumb jokes before you got a chance to say it. So I don't know if there's anything you want to finish up with, but I also want you to, if not, you can kind of direct people towards where you can be found and what other stuff you got going on, like your podcast, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, honestly, I feel really good about what I got to say. You guys are awesome. So I'm very here for that. I'm very here for that. I'm on Twitter and Instagram for sure.
It's hard to realize who she is all the time because she does change her Twitter handle every 16 hours.
I do change it a lot. But I'm going to give myself the title that Isabel gave Christopher Columbus, because I deserve that shit and he does not. I didn't realize that they called the Atlantic the Ocean Sea, because they had no fucking clue it was on the other side.
There's just one. There's one ocean sea.
Of all the times for the Earth to not be a cube that he could just fall off the other side, he would have been so convenient once in a while.
True. So I guess like I'm on podcasts too. I have a podcast called Go Home Bible, You're Drunk. We just talk about the Bible,
which I love. I love the premise. It's incredible.
What's in there?
Perfect premise for people like us.
It's just like, this is the stuff that is contained in this book, and it is very weird and makes you feel a little tipsy, even if you are someone who is sober, which mad respect. But like, this book is nuts.
I like it that you cover verses that you try to explain in your like local college Bible studies, because I remember so you would hit some of those sometimes, and I'm like, oh, I remember that verse, and I remember trying to figure out what to do with it and make it make sense. So I'd be like, that's some whack ass shit, Paul. We're good.
It's like the one that was going around last week or whatever about the, if a lady seizes you, or if two men are fighting and a woman seizes him by the penis, and
oh my God.
And then I immediately found an article of some Christian dudes explaining it, and they're like,
no,
we have to think about what's going on here, because this lady, she's not just trying to protect her husband. She's trying to maim this man. She wants him separated from the temple, unable to worship with them anymore. Like, oh my God, I hate it.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. That is the worst. That is the worst part of Go Home Bible, is like having to read the commentary by white dudes who think that they know everything. It's like, oh boy, y'all aren't racist or sexist or anything. Cool, good job.
I'm sure MacArthur and Piper and the rest of the Johns have a lot of good things to say about why all of them
everything. They have good things to say about everything, and you should just take all of it to heart. I also have a podcast called White Homework. We talk about anti-racism stuff, and just I guess like kind of like critical race theory, in the sense that it's like, this is all the stuff they didn't teach you in school.
And let's be clear, we shouldn't, right? Is that what it's about? Because we shouldn't teach CRT
I go over
school?
right, exactly. I go over a lot of things from history and point out why we should not be teaching them in school, because critical race theory is Marxism, and Marxism is communism, and communism is the devil, and Karl Marx is in hell.
You brought that home real well. Thank you.
I tried. Yeah, so we're actually more radical on Go Home Bible than we are on White Homework. If that tells you anything, I'm like, oh God, weird. People are gonna think we're really far left. I mean, if they're not wrong, but Jesus.
That's
like,
awesome.
Oh, okay, go in there. Cool, let's do it. Yeah, so that's generally where I am. Just a person about the internet.
An internet person. Perfect.
Well, It's been great meeting you. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh my God, thank you guys so much. It was amazing.
All right. Thank everybody for listening, and we will catch you next time.